Yeah, we're almost done. This is session 7, and you might have heard earlier that tonight we're primarily going to be in the wood shop. Just a little bit of conversation here to get us started, and then later on, towards 5:30 or 6, we'll be back here for a wrap-up. This is our opportunity, because of the agenda tonight, we're really going to touch on almost everything that we've talked about so far. So don't hesitate to ask any questions on any topic tonight, and let's everyone enjoy the conversation about that particular question and benefit if we do find an answer to it. Yes. We start off with the homework assignments, as everyone has now completed. Everyone has now completed. They were pretty straightforward this week. They were all focused on three-dimensional positioning, three-dimensional objects to be cut in VCarve Pro. Pretty straightforward, no issue, or maybe there were issues. Let me ask the question this way. As you went through the series of 4 videos on clip art type positioning, as you went through the videos, was there any point in the video that was not understood, that they did not make perfectly clear? Chris?
No, to answer that question. But on the second, third, and fourth video, it came up with a 404 error.
Yeah.
And I went to the veteran training videos and typed in the name.
And you found it.
There. And then they popped up, but there was a 404 error.
Okay.
But outside of that, no.
All right. Did everyone share that experience? I'm looking.
I'm still in wonder.
Oh, you didn't?
I'm not there yet.
Okay. At what point in the video assignments are you?
I'm through 4 and halfway through 5.
Okay, all right, okay.
And that extra one, the extra one you said this with the Marlin or the 3D?
Yeah, that's this last one here. That's the Marlin.
Okay.
And did you enjoy that one?
That was,
I brought
I did out a lot.
I prepped a CRV file with the tool paths to cut that. I'm looking for a piece of lumber now. That might be cute to cut it and put it on a shelf someplace, just a reminder as to what we can do with the machine. Was there any questions about that? He did some interesting movement of the conversion between the OBJ and the Vectric version. He manipulated what? I'm looking for help here because you guys have watched the video more recent than I. He actually had to take the video, or excuse me, the model, and he had to position it where he could convert it into a three-dimensional object in the Vectric format. Okay, any issues in positioning it? In seeing how he was manipulating it?
That's the one video I have not watched, Joe, so
Okay. Did anyone else watch the video beside Roger? Not there yet?
Not there yet. That's one series of 51 videos, I don't know.
How far in, are you in on, you're only on 49?
I'm on 40-something, but they just keep coming.
Okay. Now, that set of videos is really good because it's progressive, identifying a new topic in each video. Is that,
Yeah,
you're seeing that as you go through them?
yeah, and some of them build on each other, so you can.
It's a repetition.
No, you get a sense of it's following on, it's building on previous ones.
Yeah, true, yeah. I found that also. I've also, I've watched a lot of them. I have not watched 100% of them. And I would find one to answer a specific question I had. And so I bounced around looking at them.
I have a lot of specific questions.
Oh. Then tonight is the night to bring them up, okay? Because we'll have a little bit extra time tonight, and we can dig into your question as we, probably as deep as everyone, we might keep everyone awake if we, all right. I know Roger, I know Tom, Bob have all prepared CNC blanks. Sam, I saw yours is under glue now. Okay. And so everyone's got to start on preparing to do a cut. Okay. And the other question we've asked, at what point are you towards finalizing the design? I know you've taken a slightly different approach with some finger joint work. Chris, you're making progress on the 3D?
Yeah, I am. I've got some questions for you that are, I think, unique to what I'm trying to do. So,
Okay.
you know.
Let's see, Sam, we've cut yours.
We cut our, yeah.
Okay, and have you started to break it apart?
You know, I actually wanted to talk about that tonight. We go over the workshop. If
Okay.
you recall, I didn't get the cantilever position right, so I've
Okay.
got about 3/16
Yep,
that I've
we,
got to fill. And
yeah, we,
talk about that.
okay, so tonight is demonstrations in a perfect world. And we will go through the steps to, in fact, Bob has volunteered one of his 2 projects as the blank we'll use tonight to go through the steps to prepare each component to fit together in a dry fit. We'll talk about gluing, we'll talk a little bit about finishing tonight. Okay, and I think other questions will come up along the way. Yours specifically. This is from night 1. This is for night 1 of this class. The steps to build a box. And most of us have gone through these first steps to the point where they are ready to cut. Bob's cut 2, Sam's cut 1. And others are close to being ready. At some point after the cut, it's the cleanup work. How to go about successfully breaking the components out of the blank, cutting away the tabs, using sandpaper, chisels, and maybe a couple of machines to clean up the part to where you can use it. And then stepping forward, getting a piece of wood, a 1/2-inch piece of wood that you can use as the bottom Of course, I recommend we use the MDF, and I'm going to point out a piece of MDF that you can cut from tonight. Okay. And then all of the steps to dry fit the box, glue and clamp, and eventually install the top. Hopefully we're going to cover everything here tonight for Bob's box. And I promised him if I screw it up along the way, I'll cut him another one.
You'll see something that I did. I had a chip out on mine, or one of mine. Fortunately, when it happened, what I did is I saved some of the sawdust, and I made a mixture of the sawdust and glue, and made a patch. We haven't sanded it down yet, so I don't know how it's going to work, but it'll be the back of the box anyway, so it won't matter too much.
Seems to me there was a video about that. Someone did that in one of the videos. And he said he ended up starting all over. He tried to patch it like that.
Well,
He had a lot of them.
Oh, I only had a corner and then one back edge, and so, if it works, it works, it doesn't, it doesn't. I mean,
Bob is not gonna have to start over for this issue. He showed us today.
okay. Well, with that in mind, let's go and do the begin to do the demonstrations. Thank you for volunteering this to I hope we don't mess it up. He's going to have his fingers crossed all night long. Or maybe he won't be, well, he may just go away from the conversation, and
you can't trust the professor, who can you?
One point about this project from Bob, his thickness was not exactly 0.5 inches. He was close to 0.55, 0.57 in that neighborhood, and as a result, he's got probably a 64th, maybe a 32nd of material all the way around, holding things in place. The tabs were not necessary. The continuous tabs. So normally what I would do, should it have cut the complete depth, is I would just come along with chisels and break the tabs away. And here, I'm going to have to be a little bit more careful. Oh, by the way, there's a nice piece of wood left over that might be useful for something. But because of the thickness, okay. Now, I've chosen to do this with a chisel, but in the past I've used the bandsaw to just simply cut things away to the point where I can break them away. You have to be somewhat careful. You want to make sure you're not breaking a tab close to the wood itself, or you could cause it to splinter. And then we'd be in a position to fix another portion.
To recarve it.
But So at this point, there's quite a bit of cleanup is still needed. Well, fortunately, we do have, oops, excuse me. Yeah. So at this point, both of these pieces are at a point where I could take them over to the sander and take them down to a rather nice, almost finished component. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and use the sander. One of the issues we have with all of our tools is we never know whether the tool itself is calibrated. So I'd recommend that you bring a square over. It turns out that this one has always been right at 90 degrees, but quite often people will put some weight on this particular face and we'll throw it out of square. So I would recommend that you always check. Bob and I did an adjustment here earlier tonight to get the belt square, and there are two knobs here that will relax it, then you can tighten it back. Should you go about making a change, make sure that the fence itself is 1/64 or more away from the belt. Otherwise, we're going to wear down the aluminum here of the fence. We talked a little bit earlier about the dust collection system on this wall. Here we have the vacuum, and we have 4 ports. The second port down is for that particular sander. And less demands. Yeah. Less demands that we always have the dust collection on if we're using any of the power tools, any of the major tools. Rosa, if you want to get the camera over here. Yeah, we'll be able to clean this up, Bob. Yeah, in addition to the normal cleanup, I've got the thin edges here. This is going to take a little bit more time. But let's go ahead and see how it works. Just a little area here that needs to be cleaned up.
But actually both of them, because I didn't, at first I was going to do one in maple and one in this wood. I said, oh no, God, they'll fight over it. So they're both being done in this wood.
Over here.
Do I have a quick question? How does the fact that this is slightly thicker than it should be going to impact assembly?
If you are, as the basic project files all calibrate Z from the surface, from the wood surface, it's going to make the box a narrow fraction longer, but all of the dimensions will go fit properly.
Okay. So the thickness will be okay.
It turns out that the thickness is on the outside of the mortise. And the depth of the mortise is going to be accurate to, I think it was set to, for a half-inch project, it's set to 1/4 of an inch.
Okay.
And the structure of or excuse me, I should say the dimensions of the box top, as I mentioned on night 1 of the class, are set perfect, or set to perfectly fit between the two ends, and you might need just a little bit of sanding to make them acceptable, to make them fit.
So that was my question. We could, with a little bit of sanding, we can fill everything.
Yeah.
How about the front of the back fitting into that mortise?
Right.
Here, this is a half-inch, so
Well, we're going to take care of that this evening. We'll get there. I haven't focused here on Bob's cleanup yet, and that's later. My goal right this moment was to basically get a piece of a component that does not have any ragged edges. And at some point in time, I'm going to work to make sure that the two components are, if not exact, very close, and I'll pass that around. It's pretty exact right now.
another question.
Yeah.
Does that port work all 4 machines?
No, there's 4 ports there.
Oh, okay, so when we did the
Yeah,
first one,
let me pull this off. There's 4 ports over here.
and they're labeled right there.
Yeah, okay, and a legend to show which port. Now there's some talk in the background of color coding it to make it a little more obvious, but later on when I move to the drum sander, I will be moving it to a different port.
Jack, basically, the easy way is the top one is number 1, second one is number 2, third is number 3,
fourth is down to 4.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
it's just, so if you use the drum sander, that's the fourth one, you go to the fourth.
Now,
Small one, is that open to this?
Joe?
the small one is a port off of the jet.
The fourth.
It does have dust collection wired in, but it's secondary off of the drum sander. I've got to clean these two pieces up for the next step, but I have a tab here that I'm not sure I want to trust to the chisel. It's it's a quarter of an inch thick, and the wood could splinter on me. So quickly I'm going to take it over to the bandsaw and
No, he's going down the center of the tab. I was seeing where you were.
yeah, I should have hit the bandsaw on this at the same time. I need to get these cleaned up for the next demo. need to keep these identical lengths. And you need, when we talk about the box bottom in just a moment, you need to make sure that these are identical lengths and the box bottom is also that same length. It's questionable now whether this is going to fit into the mortise. You know, there's two issues. The first is that the mortise is rounded off with the due to the bit, and second is the thickness we know is thicker than a half an inch, so we know that that per the machine is exactly a half an inch. So the question is, how do we best go about break it down? And so far the drum sander has been the easiest way to break this down to where you can get a nice fit into the mortise. It's a two-step process. The two sides, okay, will have rounded corners, and one of the sides, of course, left and right. When you look at the top of the box front, we have a chamfer there, and some people might elect to round this chamfer over. I've done several boxes that way. Round it over on the sander is fine. Just a motion to turn that chamfer into a round edge. And that round edge is naturally going to fit into one of the mortises. The question is, which one? Which one do you want it in? So I typically pick the front. What I'm going to say is the front. And I will not round those two corners. I will not round the front of the right side or the left side.
You won't square it up.
I don't square it up. So for the remainder, I'll go around with the chisel and primarily cut the end grain. You primarily cut the end grain, and as you saw, I almost went and did that one that I designated as the front of the box. We've come upon some very high quality chisels recently. There's a set directly behind Paul here on the top row, and there's another set here on that column. So and they're relatively sharp right now.
But I'll make sure.
The sander, the Tormek sharpener. We have a volunteer that's going to do a little overview of the Tormek sharpener, and they do come out razor sharp.
Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for a volunteer to shave with the first. There's my volunteer.
I'm a jack.
Oh yeah, just trim.
So sometimes they just pop right out, and sometimes you got to work a little bit.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, and that's the piece you were talking about cleaning up.
Huh?
That's the piece you're talking about cleaning up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll never notice it once you get cleaned up. You can always tell them that's where one of the wheels is. How clean do those need to be? Pretty clean?
Nah. The two, the three at the top, you might want to give them a little extra care.
Yep.
They're going to be visible, but the ones on the bottom, that's
Okay.
care.
I didn't know if it would
Yeah,
cause them not to go together cleanly.
yeah. Well, I'm going to be able to take care of those three later on. I'll worry about that. The box back,
But that never happens to me.
by the way, a variety of hinges here, and come and pick one. They're available for you to use. Some larger than others. And I want to mention that there is a intentional, what we call the hinge rabbit here on the back of the back. And the intention is that there's about 1/8 of an inch left. And it gives you a surface to press the hinge against to make sure it's perfectly lined up with the back. And of course later on we'll demonstrate installing a hinge. It's pretty straightforward. I picked some soft wood for the demo tonight.
You pre-drill the holes for the hinge?
Oh yes, we'll talk to that. So right now, this one is probably at the point where I could focus on fitting it. And it's going to fit well lengthwise. I got a ways to go to take it down.
Now, this looks like it's got either a mortise or something there.
There's some leftover that I didn't clean up on the sander.
Okay.
And you can see the intentional
Well, I'm
rabbit
saying,
there.
let's go
This area here needs to be cleaned off.
right. So this is the bottom.
That is,
And on the top, does it go like this so the lid comes down and nests in here?
like that. Like
Got it.
that, the lid being.
Okay, yeah,
Okay. Okay, so to get this down, the easiest is the drum sander. And just repetitive passes until it fits. And this particular box demonstrates the approximate fit that you want to achieve. Right.
Yeah, it's snug.
And there's a question mark as to the dangers if it is too snug. It turns out that the grain, if you try and make it fit, if it's too snug, you're more than likely going to pop the edge away. And one of the boxes up here, I did in fact pop it, and I had to glue it back together. I'm pretty sure it won't be noticeable. You see the, but you
Nice.
You know, when it's like this, you could almost just put a little dab of glue in, and it would be more than adequate. Okay, you've heard me say several times that there's a half-inch MDF material available for you to cut from. Half inch. This piece belongs to the wood shop. So it's available for you to cut from to obtain your box bottom. Okay. And then there's several little pieces around that are also available. I don't see one immediately, but I did see one this weekend. So help yourself to the MDF. You've seen us use this bottom happens to be perfect fit for this box, or one of them. I'm not going to, unless using that machine is pretty straightforward. I don't.
The sander?
With a sander, we've demoed it several times. As all machines, we put a double switch on them.
Check, yeah.
You're in. Make it. Is that that's the bottom one, right? Okay. Please don't trust this. Just gently found where the drum is touching the surface of the wood. At this point, going down a quarter of a turn at a time until you zero in on the thickness you need. And it's going to take 5, maybe 7 passes at that rate to get it down. And
So why wouldn't you use the planer?
it's a valid question, and it's a toss-up.
Okay.
I would
just curious.
it's more personal preference.
Okay.
You know, the reason we sand is to get rid of tool marks. Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
Right.
And that will leave tool marks, especially if you're staining.
Okay.
Especially if you're staining. And here, we typically have this loaded with 80 grit. What is it now? Can you tell what grit that is? I'm serious. Can we? Can you?
No, I can't tell.
I can't.
I mean, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job taking it down. I'm already at the point, I'm in range. I'm in range now of it working.
One more time.
One more. We're in the ballpark, and I might go 1/8 of a turn, but at this point it's going to fit. Pretty straightforward. So we've covered squaring up the mortise. We've covered thinning these down. We've covered cutting a piece of MDF from the bottom, and of course the MDF is going to have to be thinned down to where it'll fit also. Again, feasible on the sander to do that. For those of you who are going to cut 3/8 inch material, it's really no different. It's the same principle. Same set of steps. No, everybody else is going to be 1/2 inch. You're a 1/2 inch. Okay. I mentioned there is an exact dimension of the box bottom per the plan, but I've never used it. I've always measured and cut the box bottom widthwise to fit, and I would recommend that also. Now I think I've covered everything. Obviously, when you are running them through, you'd probably want to do the bottom, the front, and the back all at the same time, until one of them is close to fitting, and then you could fine tune each one of them to fit. Pretty straightforward. At some point in time, you're going to be ready to finish things off. Before any gluing, I would recommend that you thoroughly sand the inside of the box 100%. And you can always sand the outside of the box after it's assembled, but so much easier when you have individual components.
You use a hand sander?
Pardon?
And with a hand sander?
I would recommend the random orbital. That is the fastest sander, and we have a full set of grits. Starting at, I'd start at 100 and I'd go up to 220. Some people would say 150 is enough, and that's your choice. But that would put you in position to apply a coat of polyurethane. Now there's 2 points of view floating around. Polyurethane versus some enhanced oil. Enhanced oil, of course, is the easier finish to apply. just wipe it on, let it dry for 24, 48, sometimes 96 hours. I personally like polyurethane, and I've used Minwax quite a bit for the finishing work. I want to mention this. This is a Rust-Oleum product, and it's crystal clear, where the polyurethane always has a yellowish tint to it. Some people don't like that. I found that this Rust-Oleum crystal clear is just that. It's very clear. It's much harder, a much harder surface. Rosa's box that's on her chest of drawers is this material, and it's very clear. At some point in time, you're getting ready to glue. And here is the that's the big challenge. Most of you have glued complex projects before. I find that when you're building a box, you really have to be dedicated for about a half an hour, 45 minutes to get everything in clamps to where you're satisfied with it. Because we have very tight joints, you really don't need a lot of clamp pressure. You just want to hold the box in place. And I would recommend that once you get the box assembled, that you take it over to a flat surface here and make sure it doesn't rock. The warped wood or slight imperfections in the fit could cause it to rock. Get rid of the rock in the clamps if you possibly can. But if you can't, the box has feet on it. So we can come along and we can just sand down 1 foot to get the box sitting stable on the flat surface.
Do you ever put any little rubber feet on those so they hold, or that they don't?
Actually, I can't remember that. I can't remember doing it. I can't remember having to do that.
Yeah.
I'm certain that when I've given them to people, they've come along and put some feet on it. I never have. So yeah, be careful that it's not warped and it's flat. Like I said, you don't need a lot of clamping pressure. As a wrap up here, you want to make sure that the length of the box bottom is identical to the length of each side, and the front and the back. At some point in time after the finishing is done, or
How do you go about doing that? Do you use a level, or do you use a tape measure? Because when you put them in, I'm guessing that you take one piece down, you put them both in with the bottom.
good question, Sam. The only thing that I believe matters is how the top fits.
Okay, so that's your.
If you've got a gap, if you're not satisfied with the seam on either side, maybe you could adjust the glue joint to where you were satisfied with it. I've done that in the past myself. I would also encourage that if you don't hesitate to sand a little away. If you're not satisfied with the seams. This one, that's the quality that I look for in the seams.
So you get about a 64th gap because you're going to finish it.
I mean, I've built them that were more perfectly aligned than that, but several have been this quality, and I've been satisfied with them.
Is that, is this one 3/8 or?
That happens to be a half.
Okay.
Let me, yeah, that's a half.
Yeah.
I do have a 3/8 one here.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this one is 3/8.
Yeah.
That's not glued yet.
Pretty design.
That's the one that I wasn't satisfied with the end pattern, and I had to go a little deeper. So that one, when we glued it together, you'll find a little bit of glue squeeze out. And two topics left. At this point, the breakout, the cleaning up on the sander, using the little tiny sander for the detail work. I did it quick tonight, but of course when you do it, you're going to be very careful. The two items left are I said two, I can't only remember one. Mounting the hinge, and of course, should you choose to put a knob on the front. There's some nice little knobs available. I'll pass that one around.
The cleaning of your cutout there, or the design and so forth. 'Cause some of them are
That's,
little-
thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect, perfect timing.
Straight man.
I did spend some time on this box. I wasn't perfect, but I did some cleanup work on this box using these tools. This little set is in my tool chest over here, and you're welcome to use it. These are diamond impregnated tools of a variety of shapes.
Sell something like this on Amazon. They look like Q-tips. Only they've got the sandpaper on the end. You
Okay,
can buy 50 of them for a couple bucks. But anyway, I just wondered.
that,
What do you
are they,
call it?
are they small enough to fit?
Yeah, it looks like it in
Okay.
the pictures.
Worth an experiment, worth it. These are available if, when you get ready to do it.
Yeah.
It does?
Makes a difference, yeah.
Yeah. This particular one of the set is more often used than the others
I don't remember, I gotta go back and look at the picture.
because it's a little 90-degree edge on the back that will clean out
Look at it.
a V-groove.
Like it.
Yeah.
That's
Okay,
what I
so
was trying to find, but I couldn't find it on Amazon. What do you call these, Joe? They're not chisels.
they are
Vic,
diamond, they're diamond something. And
Those are nice.
I'll see if I can find the page and send a note
Okay, that'd be
with
great.
the link.
I typed in chisels, I did left out diamond, that was where it went.
Earlier, I did mention that there is a rabbet on the back of the back. And its function in life is to hold the hinge straight when you first install it. Dennis, look in that drawer that says tape. It's on this end. And you'll see some black tape with red cover on it towards the bottom. It's two-sided tape. Yes. We bought this roll specifically for the class.
And all of it makes for like about $40.
Yeah, I wasn't getting those.
Huh?
I went for what I thought was good quality at a good price. We'll see.
There's a little tool that I swear by for mounting hinges. It's a center drill tool. You've seen, everyone's seen these, haven't you? It allows you to put a little niche in the wood. And I'll make sure everyone sees this. I only want to nudge, but the idea is to get that hold exactly in the center. Otherwise, the force of the screw is going to pull the hinge one way or the other if it's not in the center. So in going through the steps of mounting the hinge, I will typically do that for the center for the first one. And then I picked a drill bit that's just slightly smaller than the screw itself, and that's important on the hardwood. These little screws break with the least amount of pressure, they'll break. But I usually put the first screw in. I am missing the fine bit.
You need a Phillips, or what do you need?
It's a number 1 Phillips, and I think I'll use. Oh, okay, thank you. It's a number 1. If it was a snake. I have used the drill, and I have failed quite often. I do not recommend it. Now, once you've got the first screw in, I'm going to make a shortcut here too, for time purposes. double-sided tape. The first one came off so easy.
Isn't that always the way?
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest drawbacks of this double-sided tape.
Yeah. We buy the thicker double-sided tape because you really need the thickness here because of the way the hinge itself works. The thinner tape will stick and then immediately come apart. Okay. Now with a little bit of practice and care, you can get it a little more perfect than that. But the idea here is that the double-sided tape is going to hold it in place for you to come along, screw it. I'd recommend you put 2 screws, one on each end, and check it for alignment. You see if it's going to open and close. Okay.
So you close the hinge, put the double-sided tape on the closed hinge, and you push the top down?
I would put the double-sided tape there. I would put 1 screw on each end and test it. Okay. If you're not satisfied with it, you more than likely are going to end up completely removing the hinge, sliding it over a half or a quarter of an inch, and drill new holes.
Or do you just fill in the hole on the lid and let it dry and re-drill?
That's your choice.
Okay.
That's your choice. But at this point, with the double-sided tape, you've got an acceptable fit. You might not be satisfied here, but that's up to you.
Are you leaving the tape on?
I'm always pulling the screws, removing the tape, and reinstalling it. You know, my experience has been if you get a screw functional on each end of the box and each end of the top, you probably got a good fit, and you can do the other screws at your leisure. You know, at that point. I've completed all of the steps. Only thing left is finishing, and we spoke to that a little bit. I will typically sand 100% of the inside prior to gluing, and then come along after you're gluing with the random orbital sander and take care of everything on the outside of the box. I would put 1 coat, maybe 2 coats of varnish on, then put the screws in for the hinge, and then wrap up later on with a couple of more coats of varnish.
Talk about where to do the finishing.
Please.
For spraying purposes, the room itself is off limits, period, for spray purposes. Beyond that, I won't say yes or no to anything. I typically find a piece of flat material. We had a ceiling tile, and it's here somewhere, and a workbench that's right behind Paul. And I usually take those outside on a clear, non-windy day and spray right outside. No issue.
Take this workbench outside?
I've never done that.
Okay. I thought you said you took the
Which one were you
workbench.
talking about?
Pardon? There is a white tile here someplace.
The workbench, you said.
And, oh, here's the source down below.
Oh, yeah.
No one cares if you spray them with varnish. If somebody does care, we've got plenty of plastic sheets here that can be used outside. Pardon?
But that's the only workbench on wheels that I see.
True. Oh, no, maybe that one over here. Double check me, is that one on wheels?
Yes. This one is, yeah. So Joe, you're saying you take that workbench?
No, I take one of the ceiling tiles that are under those shelves,
Because you said you...
and I take them out on a stool. The stool that's right beside Paul. Did I say workbench?
Yes, sir, you did.
Okay, sorry.
That's what we're all trying to figure out.
Okay,
Grab a hold of this one.
it's a lot of weight here.
You can actually,
We have it on tape.
I've done things like that where you just get one of the big boxes from Costco, for example, that's cut out. You just put it in there.
Yeah, but not in this room. If you do put a box outside and a whiff of wind comes along, like I say, I've been rather successful using those tiles, and one or two stools. One typically works for me. I did three. The latest work I did was 3 boxes, and I didn't have any issue with one of those tiles. Everything fit. I don't think we've missed anything. I think we've touched on all of the process. I've got to start on your box. You have one piece left. So,
I got another box too.
well, that gives you some practice here before you get to the other box. All right, you had some questions.
No, the only question I had, because we got this top one, it got off a little bit,
Yep.
and do we fill that with epoxy? What do we do? Or do we treat it
Well-
as an inlay?
Let's review what happened here.
Yeah.
When we were going through the cutting process for Sam, we checked it several times and everything seemed to be perfect. After we did the cut, we noticed that the profile cuts for the front and the back were not cutting along the center. And when we looked in detail, we found that the rectangle to define the front of the box shifted downward just a little bit. We don't know why. It shifted downward. And so the machine just would not, or the software in the machine would not put a profile cut along this edge. So let's compare.
Okay, they're both 3 and 3/16.
Let's compare size-wise and see what we're dealing with. So here's a back.
Just measure.
The back's going to be perfect. Here's the front.
I think the front's gonna be close because they're both the same size. Length, width.
The rectangle was the same size.
Yeah, they're both the same. They're both 3 and 3/16.
Okay. So here,
So all I have to do is maybe take a sand.
I would, what I think I would do is I'd take it over to the, this pointer will work. I'll take it over to the bandsaw and go exactly in the center.
Yeah.
Same here, exactly in the center, and clean things up.
Yeah.
Now, because the rectangle that defined the profile is not in alignment with the rectangle that defined the back rabbet. The back rabbet is going to have a little X.
Probably be short.
Let me double check. It's going to have,
Just measure.
you're going to have about that much.
4 1/4.
You're going to have probably 5/16 of extra space in this rabbet, and you're probably going to have to use the table saw to cut away about 5/16 here to bring this rabbet down to the edge.
Well,
And
this would actually put it in the top. Here's the 2 panels. Yeah, I know what I gotta do.
you're going to end up having to take away that much on the rabbet, and that's going to leave a little bit of space on the top on the rabbet, and a little sliver of wood. That'll work.
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. Because when I measured them, these were both the same. And when we talked before, I thought I had about 1/4 of an inch that I was playing around with. But,
The only issue I see is in the rabbet.
yeah. Yep.
Now, what could we have done as we were going through the cuts to double check that everything was where it should be? Like I say, I don't know why the rectangle defining the profile shifted about 5/16 of an inch. I would say we should have ran that last simulation before we began cutting the profile.
Yeah.
If we'd have ran the simulation and paid close attention, we would have seen that the software was not cutting the profile along that edge. So it was really, we just weren't thorough enough on double checking before we allowed the cut to happen.
And what we did is, because I deleted all the patterns, so I could have a clean blank to put my drawing on, we had to reload the mortise. And I
We did.
wondered, I think that, we didn't rerun it, we reloaded the mortise and we didn't check it.
Yeah. But it turns out it's a lesson.
That's good learning.
It's a point here for the group on that last double check before you allow the machine to do the cut.
Yep.
Measure twice.
Thrice.
we thought we had, but it was
The whole quote is-
6:30 at night and.
Enter twice, cut once, curse, go back to the laundry room.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah. Okay, we are at the 5:30 point. I had planned a little bit of conversation in the club room. So let's take a walk back. And we've done a lot over the 7 weeks. You guys, with the exception of Chris, you guys have learned all the basics of preparing a file to be cut on the machine, and you've seen the machine in action. We've done some practical. Now it's just a matter of proceeding and finishing the task at your pace. Let's spend a moment looking backwards. Let's see, we covered all this evening, right? We cleaned up the carving. We weren't thorough, we didn't do every single piece, but we touched on all of the process of cleaning up the carving. We've eliminated the tabs, we've polished the edges. We've talked about building a box bottom, dry fitting, making sure we don't break the wood sides along the mortise. We've discussed sanding. I didn't really show the clamp process, and that's in hindsight. That maybe we should, in the future, when you get ready to clamp it, if I'm available, let's work together. I've shown the steps to install the hinge, and we've discussed finishing. So we touched on all the items we needed to. Looking backwards, though, it's been seven sessions and a lot of homework. And so far, we got one person that's behind in the homework. But you'll catch up. You'll catch up.
How do you do? Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a little behind.
Okay.
It's just,
You
all
got
those videos,
you got that 47th video.
yeah.
Have you been able to do the 3D videos yet? The 3-dimensional videos from
Oh, yes.
session 6?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. What questions are outstanding after 7 weeks? That's really the wrap-up conversation, and there may be some tonight, and I'm double-checking with the question for tonight. Of course, should there be a question in the future, come into the wood shop in the afternoon and we can talk about the details. I know several of you have additional boxes planned. Okay. Sam, you've got a couple. Chris, you're in the middle of one. Okay. Looking back over the 7 sessions, is there any question, anything that we could have covered a little more thorough at that time? Anything you could pop to mind?
Just my thoughts, Joe, given the fact that this is an introductory class on builder box, I can't think of a thing that could have
Okay.
been covered in more depth.
Okay.
You know, now, if you decide to do an advanced class, at some point in the future, then there's probably stuff, but as of right now,
Yeah.
I mean, you covered stuff in this class that we did not cover
In previous
4 years-
classes?
4 years ago.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I think I've seen some improvements in the material, the detail of the material that we include over the years. That begs a long-term question. If there was something that you eventually find that we missed and could have covered in the class, I would appreciate a note on that. You know, tell us where we can improve, and so that's really for everyone. No questions. I'm out of material.